Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Such a lukewarm response. Not excited about tonight's lecture. just have to come for the Masjid Maghrib. Isha is so soon, might as well just stay. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Welcome, brothers and sisters, to Friday Night Lights at Lake Islamic Center. My name is Salman Gani. It is my honor and my privilege to have been asked to come and talk to you something about your religion. I don't believe there is something or anything more noble or better to honor a person with than to invite them to teach you your religion. Another, this is very loud. There we go. Okay. Tonight's lecture is something very dear to my heart, and I'll tell you why. The topic. The story of Yusuf alayhi salam is something which is very well known. Most children very early on in their lives, after they learn about Rasul alayhi salam and Ibrahim alayhi salam, perhaps one of the prophets very early on they learn about is Yusuf alayhi salam. And the reason is because their own parents, when they were young, they learned the story of Yusuf alayhi salam so early on. And the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, the reason it's so popular, one of the reasons is because A, it's extremely captivating as described in the Quran. B, it is in comprehensive detail in one whole surah, beginning to end. 3, it's highly dramatic. A lot of really unique scenarios and situations occur, and reactions of people, and the steps that Yusuf alayhi salam and his father Yaqoub take alayhi salam to do something, to accomplish something, and the way people react to those responses. It is very dramatic. Many teachers of mine in modern times, of course, they bring an example of the story of Yusuf alayhi salam as being an extremely dramatic movie. The only difference is this: in any other movie, you will find good characters and bad characters, and you will see the good characters triumphing over the bad characters and annihilating them. In this story, as opposed to any of those stories, the good characters remain good and the bad characters become good towards the end. It is the most triumphant of all stories that you can imagine. That's the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls us ahsan al-qasas, the best of stories and the best of narratives. However, I will say one thing. Historically speaking, except those who are very well grounded in tafsir, from the mufassirun, except them, majority of ummah, when they talk about the story of Yusuf alayhi salam from the surah itself, they tend to hyperfixate on Yusuf alayhi salam in deference to every other character. And I think this actually is an injustice to other characters in the story. Yes, for sure, the focus of the surah is indeed Yusuf alayhi salam and his life, because that is from which we derive the maximum benefit. But that is not the only life that we discussed, nor is he the only source of wisdoms and benefits for us in his story, or rather in this surah. It is in fact his father as well. So if you look at the Surah Yusuf, the number of ayat that talk about Yusuf alayhi salam, either him saying something or someone saying something to him, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about Yusuf, or people talking about Yusuf alayhi salam, the number of ayat in a surah which is 111 ayat is close to 90. Which means for sure the protagonist for the story is indeed Yusuf alayhi salam. But make no mistake, Yaqub alayhi salam, his father, is mentioned at least in 40 of these ayat as well. That's more than a third. That's a lot of prominence and presence for someone other than Yusuf alayhi salam in this story. And the more I research this, my love and admiration, respect and awe for Yaqub alayhi salam increased. So I felt a need to share that with all of you, because when you look up any kind of reflections or khawatir on tafsir or Surah Yusuf in general, aside from the tafsir itself, oftentimes you'll see people only talking about Yusuf alayhi salam, frequently ignoring what we can learn from Yaqub alayhi salam's life. So tonight, inshallah, even though we'll cover in a short time the entire, pretty much the entire surah of Surah Yusuf, we will focus on the ayat, almost all of them talking about Yaqub alayhi salam. And you will see how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested him along with Yusuf alayhi salam. Because interestingly, in the Quran, Al-Mufassirin will say this to you. Every single time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives an example of somebody who is extremely patient, usually three names come forefront. Nuh alayhi salam, Ayyub alayhi salam, and Yusuf alayhi salam. Because they were tested severely and they were the best in responding when it comes to patience. They became the example for all humanity and how to remain patient in calamity and in plenty. But in this surah as well, you will see Yaqub alayhi salam was tested so severely by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially as a father. That is mind-boggling that we do not focus on that, we do not derive a lot of benefit from that. So before we dive into the surah itself, very quickly talk about Yaqub alayhi salam, who he was, alayhi salam, and who his lineage is. And famously, there's a famous hadith that a Sahabi came to Ar-Rasul alayhi salam and he said, Ya Rasulullah, who is the most kareem of people? So the Prophet alayhi salam responded, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The most noble of you are those who are the highest taqwa. This is ayah in Surah Al-Hujurat. He said, Ya Rasulullah, that's not what I mean. Yani he's talking about what? Genealogy. He wants to know who's the most noble in lineage. So the Prophet ﷺ responded, Huwa Yusuf ibnu Nabi, ibn Khalilullah. He is Yusuf, the son of a prophet, the son of Khalilullah, yani Ibrahim alayhi salam. And this version is the version found in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. It's muttafaqun alayh. But there are multiple variations of this hadith. Huwa Kareem ibn Kareem ibn Kareem ibn Kareem, Yusuf ibn Yaqub ibn Ishaq ibn Ibrahim. Or a different hadith says, Huwa Nabi ibn Nabi ibn Nabi ibn Nabi. And there are multiple variations of this hadith in different books of hadith that you can find. The one that I'm mentioning to you is the one that Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. And so, even from this hadith, we learn something very interesting. Yaqub alayhi salam himself is from an extremely noble lineage. His father is nothing short of a very prominent prophet, not just for us, but for sure Bani Israel. He said he is Ishaq alayhi salam, or Isaac in their scriptural history. Also, the father of Isaac is none other than Khalilullah, Ibrahim alayhi salam. So from all of this, we learn that Yusuf alayhi salam and his father were especially noble and especially well-renowned human beings, even within their own times, aside from the fact that they're prophets. The genealogy of Yaqub alayhi salam is thusly. His father is Ishaq, but before his father, his grandfather is Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam, to all we know from, I'm speaking only from Bani Israel connections, because simply put, I could not have enough time to verify what Islamic sources say about this genealogy. So I'm asking you to take all of this with a grain of salt. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, famously that we know for a fact, had two sons, Ismail from his wife Hajar, our mother, and Ishaq from his second, or rather his first wife, Sarah. And it said that he also had a daughter, her name was Keturah, and she had 6 children of her own. They have nothing to do with Bani Israel, or they do not feature in our genealogy or our Islamic heritage as well. From Ishaq, he married a lady called Rebecca. And from Rebecca, Allah blessed him with 2 children. Al-Aish, also called Esau in Judeo-Christian traditions. Al-Aish is what we call in Arabic. And of course, Yaqub al-Islam, who is also known in our tradition and their tradition as Israel or Israel. And from Yaqub alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with 4 wives. One narration says he was blessed with 2, the other says he had blessed with 4. From the first wife, he had 2 sons. From the second wife, he had 6 sons. From the third wife, he had 2 sons. And the fourth, who is the mother of Yusuf alayhi salam, he had 2 sons. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with 12 sons. Famously, these sons became the progenitors for the 12 tribes of Israel. Till this day, something that Bani Israel are so thoughtful about, and the al-asbat, as we call in the Quran, are These are the fathers of Al-Asbat, these 12 sons of Yaqub alayhi salam. It is said that his youngest wife, Yaqub alayhi salam's youngest wife, Rachel, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, if anyone can tell me what's the Arabization of that word. Rachel died when she gave birth to Yusuf alayhi salam's younger brother, who, as we know, is called Binyamin. In English, it's called Benjamin. And because of this, Yaqub alayhi salam was especially cognizant and careful towards two of his sons, the youngest two sons, Yusuf and Binyamin. These two of his children were motherless. Also, couple things. As everyone knows famously, this surah testifies that Yusuf alayhi salam was extremely handsome. There's a reason for that. One of the classes Shaykh Kamal al-Makki teaches for Al-Maghrib Institute is called, I forgot the name in English. It's basically an entire class on Al-Anbiya. One of the things he'll start the class with, he'll mention that Al-Anbiya, they all share certain common traits. One of the traits Al-Anbiya share is this: they are all handsome, at least handsome. Some of them are spectacularly handsome. So look at Yusuf alayhi salam's lineage. His father is Ishaq, but let's go all the way to the top. Ibrahim alayhi salam, being a Nabi, was handsome, and he married Sarah, our mother, who was known to be exceedingly beautiful as a woman. Then his son Ishaq also married a really exceptionally beautiful woman called Rebecca, also our mother. And his son Yaqub married Rachel, who was also very beautiful. And so from all of these unions come Yusuf alayhi salam and all the other 11 sons, all of them very, very handsome young men. Their beauty will come into play later on tonight. Inshallah, we'll discuss why that was important to mention. But we dive into the surah immediately. And when I say dive into the surah, it's because if you look at the surah, the first scene described is a very unique scene. It's as if you're looking at a movie. إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبت إني رأيت أحد عشر كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes when Yusuf says to his father, Ya abati, O my beloved father, I saw where? In my dream, in parentheses. I saw in my dream 11 kawkaba. Kawkab could be planets or stars, both will work. Let's assume there are nujum that we talk about. I saw 11 stars, the sun and the moon. I saw all of them prostrating to me. Many people, when they hear this, say, how does the sun and the moon prostrate? Does the disk bend like this? How do stars with dot in the sky? We don't have to worry about that. The dream is something that Yusuf alayhi salam saw. You don't have to try to see it. Just follow along what he's saying. So he says, I saw in my dream 11 stars, the sun and the moon prostrating to me. His father alayhi salam has a very interesting response. He says, Ya bunay, la taqsus رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيد لك كيدا إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين. His father responds in a rather unique manner. Instead of happy and hugging his son and congratulating him, he says something which is alarming, to say the least. He says, listen to me, I urge you, do not tell about your dream to your brothers, lest I fear they will plot against you. Indeed, shaitan is to man a clear enemy. One thing immediately come to your mind. Don't all of our du'at, our imams, our mashayikh say something? You are responsible for your actions. And yet, Yaqub alayhi salam shifts the blame on an unattempted evil deed of his sons, yet unattempted evil deed, upon shaitan. Why did he do that? We're going to discuss this later, inshallah, in a second. But then he says something which is actually a bashara for his son. وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ وَعَلَى آلِ يَعْقُوبَ كَمَا تَمَّهَا عَلَى أَبَوَيْكَ مِنْ قَبْلِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْحَاقَ إِنَّ رَبَّكَ عَلِيمٌ حَكِيمٌ. He says, your Lord will prefer you, and then he will teach you interpretation of dreams, And then he'll perfect his favor upon you, the way he perfected his favor upon the family of Yaqub, and before them upon his fathers, Ibrahim and Ishaq. Indeed, your Lord is most wise, most knowing. So now, Yaqub al-Islam is giving his son something that he only can tell by listening to a dream. Good news, not just good news, spectacular news. Yusuf, you, my son, will follow me in my legacy. The legacy that I inherited from my fathers. The favor that Allah perfected upon our family. Prophethood. Yusuf, you will take from me that I have wished and yearned that one of my 10 sons before you would take. And Allah SWT did not bless any of them with. You will get it. You will be my inheritor in nobility when it comes to guiding mankind. Prophethood. This is also the biggest reason of concern for Yaqub al-Islam throughout his life. You know why that is the case? Because he knows his son is going to be a prophet, which means he knows his son will not die anytime soon. Why is that a problem? Allah SWT says in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي يُوسُفَ وَإِخْوَتِهِ آيَاتٌ لِلسَّائِلِينَ. Indeed, Yusuf and his brothers are a sign for those who ask good questions or smart questions. What do we mean by that? Mankind in general, 90% of humanity are in the middle. At the bottom 5% are truly heinous, wretched people whose hearts are blacker than the night and more hard than any stone. Like Fir'aun, like Abu Jahl, like Abu Lahab, who know in their hearts that they define Allah's will and they go to war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The most heinous of mankind, these 5%. On top is people like Yaqub and Yusuf alayhimus salam, the best of mankind, examples for us while they're alive and even after they pass. Their lives are nothing but full of lessons, beneficial lessons for us. But 90% in the middle are people like you and I. Sometimes we sway towards good, unfortunately other times we sway towards evil. And therefore this ayah says, indeed, Yusuf and his brothers are an example of mankind. His brothers are actually in the middle, as you will see. Sometimes they sway towards good, sometimes towards evil. But Yusuf alayhi salam is from the top of humanity, for sure. إِذْ قَالُوا لَيُوسُفُ وَأَخُوهُ أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَبِينَا مِنَّا وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ إِنَّ أَبَانَ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. When they say this, I cannot understand how the audacity of these people. They say, indeed, Yusuf and his brother, yani Yusuf and his full brother, Binyamin, are more beloved to our father than all of us, despite the fact we are in usbah. Indeed, our father is in plain error. What do you mean by usbah? If you take the theory that Yaqub alayhi salam only had 2 wives, from the first wife he had 10, in the second he had 2, then the usbah becomes clear. Usbah means a tightly knit group, a small group of people who all share certain common traits with each other. In this case, the common trait will be they all came from the same mother. If you take the other theory that Yaqub alayhi salam's 10 sons were from 3 different mothers and the other 2 was from the 4th wife, then even then they are usbah because they're all older in age. Quite a bit older actually. It's safe to assume that the eldest brother of Yusuf alayhi salam was at least a generation older than him, perhaps 1.5 generations, which also means when this incident is occurring, how old do you think Yaqub alayhi salam is? Take a guess. When I say take a guess, you can take a guess and you don't have to. Not 80, but for sure an old man. At least 50, very likely 60. So Allah SWT blessed him with young children when he was in his 50s or 60s from his 4th wife. And his eldest son, very likely is in his 30s already. Then they say something very evil. They say, اقتلوا يوسف اقتلوا يوسف أو اطرحوه أرضا يخل لكم وجه أبيكم وتكونوا من بعده قوما صالحين. Have you not heard this story, by the way? They say, kill Yusuf, or at least toss him out or cast him out into another land, so that the favor of your father will fall only upon you. They tell each other, they're giving each other nasiha, evil nasiha, that let's kill Yusuf get rid of our problem, or at least cast him out somewhere else, far away land, so that so the favor of our Father will finally fall upon us. We will become His beloved. And once we do that, we'll do what? We'll make tawbah. Inna Allah ghafurur rahim. Allah tawwabun halim. This is exactly what shaitan does to people. That's why their father said what? Inna shaitana, indeed shaitan is to mankind a clear enemy. Why? Because shaitan comes and does what? Whisper in people's hearts. Just do this and make tawbah afterwards. Once a person keeps doing this, what happens? Slowly but surely, they forgive making tawbah and they forget making istighfar. Eventually, the heart becomes so black, they don't even understand that they're committing an evil deed. This problem that they had in their heart did not arise like this. It's something that must have corrupted their hearts over a span of long time, several years. They must have seen their father focusing from the moment Binyamin's mother died. They must have seen Yusuf and his brother becoming the focus of their father, because two young boys, no mother, obviously their father loves and cherishes them. Plus the father knows what? One of them is going to inherit prophethood. So for sure, their jealousy increased with time, became more and more. Do you understand why I said this story? I titled it Yaqub the Patient One. Because Yaqub knows what's going on in their hearts. He in fact knew this before it erupted in their hearts. That's why I said, do not tell your dream to your brothers, they may plot against you. That's exactly what happened. They learned of his dream. Scholars said that because he was a young boy, he in fact blurted it to one of his brothers and they learned his dream. So their jealousy with time increased. It increased to such an extent that this is what they want to do. Listen to this. How evil is just to think about something like this. They want to kill a young boy. Not just a young boy. They want to kill a Muslim young boy. Not just a Muslim young boy. They want to kill a Muslim young boy who is their own half-brother. Not only that, they want to kill their half-brother Muslim boy who is destined to be a prophet after them. Someone who's truly beloved to their father. Why? Just so that the father's favor will fall upon them. I'll say one thing to everyone here. Yaqub al-Islam was not negligent in his duty towards them. It's not that he ignored the rest of the 11 or 10 brothers and focused only on these two. No. Yaqub al-Islam is a noble prophet. You and I, whom Allah have blessed with many children, we do not fall short in taking care of them equally. But again, at the end of the day, the Prophet ﷺ told us something. Indeed, the hearts of men are in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, between the fingers of Allah. He turns them as He wills. You can check in your heart and you can believe me if you or not. But you will never love two of your children exactly the same way. There's a possibility you love more one than the other. And your love may shift. Sometimes you will love the elder child more, sometimes you will love the younger child more. Your love will be close to each other, but they'll never be equal. So his love for Yusuf and Yaqub was evident to everybody, even though he was a dutiful father to all 12 of his children. Alayhi salam. Continuing further, they plotted a plot. They said, in order for us to get rid of Yusuf, we need to get him out from the clutches of our father, because our father keeps hugging him and keeps a close eye on both of them. He does not let them out of his sight. So there's only one way to accomplish this evil deed. Get him out from the house. قالوا يا أبانا ما لك لا تأمنا على يوسف وإنا له لناصحون أرسله معنا غدا يرتع ويلعب وإنا له لحافظون. They said, O our father, why do you not entrust us with Yusuf? Well, indeed, we are to him sincere counselors. We will give him good nasihah. We are his elder brothers. We'll take care of him. Let him come with us. Yarta' wa yal'ab. Let him enjoy himself and play. Inna lahu lahafidun. We will keep an eye on him. We'll protect him. Don't you worry about that. We are his elder brothers. We will take care of him. He says, قال إني ليحزنني أن تذهبوا به وأخاف أن يأكله الذئب وأنتم عنه غافلون. He says something to them which is, from the context of things, truly strange. it is away from the conversation in many different degrees. He says, I fear if I send him with you, you guys become negligent about him and he will be eaten by the wolf. They say, قالوا لئن أكل الذئب ونحن عصبة إنا إذا لخاسرون. Indeed, Father, what are you saying? We will keep a close eye on him, and we are in Usba, a strong group. If indeed he's taken, rhetorically speaking, if indeed he's consumed by the wolf, we are the losers. This is something absolutely true. Indeed, they were min al khasirin. They became the losers because of their actions. The scholars commented on this. They said the reason why Yaqub brought the idea of the wolf was in a subtle manner telling them something. I'm not concerned about the creature. I'm concerned about the wolves inside your hearts. I fear that wolf will come out and consume my son because I know what's in your hearts. I can see it on your faces. One more time. They say, Inna abana lafi dalalin mubin. Can you believe it? They know their father is a noble prophet. Yani, they know their father received direct wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He does not need to consult his neighbor. He does not need to consult his wife. If he needs help, if he needs information, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send down to him. And they assume their father is in grave error. This is exactly what shaitan does to people. I'll make a comment here for my younger brothers here, especially, and my younger sister as well. Trust me when I say this, I have been in that state where you think your parents do not know based on their archaic history or the fact that they lived youngsters 20, 30 years ago, they do not understand your challenges, what you face. And you assume that by concealing things from them and seeking advice of your friends who are the same age as you, that's a better solution to find a solution to your problem. I can guarantee you one thing. I have done this misstep 1,000 times and I fear some of you will do it. But take my advice right now. If you have a problem, go to your parents and do not assume they do not have the solution. Just because they do not go on TikTok and WhatsApp does not mean they do not understand your problems. And especially does not mean they cannot solve it for you. Even if they cannot solve it by themselves, they'll find somebody else who will solve it for you. But your friends cannot be nasihun to you. Especially in critical matters, grave matters. Your friends who are the same age as you, the same limited experience in life, cannot help you and cannot give you good advice in most of your matters in life. Because they are also limited in experience. Some of them may give you some good advice here and there, but your parents will give you good advice all the time. You need to go back to them. And first and foremost, if you have done an error, if you commit a mistake, reveal to your parents. If you have something in your heart which is, for all intents and purposes, dishonored or something which is evil, consult with your parents. Even if you don't want to consult with your parents, talk to your uncle or the imam or someone older in your family. If you fear you don't reveal into your heart to your parents, they'll think very less of you. These men did the same exact ridiculous thing. They assumed that their problem is something their father cannot solve for them. So they embarked upon a solution. Let's kill our brother. Continue further. وَجَاءُوا أَبَاهُمْ عِشَاءً يَبْكُونَ قالوا يا أبانا إنا ذهبنا نستبق وتركنا يوسف عند متاعنا فأكله الذئب وما أنت بمؤمن لنا ولو كنا صادقين. They came to their father at Isha time, at late at night. They said, "Oh, our father, indeed we went racing with each other." And Yusuf could not keep up because he was already in charge of our stuff. We had left our bags in the corner. We told Yusuf, just keep an eye on that. We went racing. When we came back, he was devoured by the wolf. We tell you the truth, even though we fear would not believe us. All of the story then nullified by the last statement. We fear you not believe us. Why? Because, again, as I said, his brothers are in the 90% of mankind. They're not inherently evil, so they don't know how to tell a good lie. They made a baseless lie and they said, the wolf came and devoured our son. We're telling you the truth, but we fear you're not going to believe us. وَجَاءُوا عَلَىٰ قَمِيصِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ قَالَ بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. They came to him with a shirt covered in damin kadhib, false blood, or rather not the blood of Yusuf alayhi salam. The scholars commented, they found this ram, a sheep, they slaughtered it. They took its blood and covered it in the shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam. And then what they do to Yusuf alayhi salam, famously, they cast him in an empty well, in a jub, in a very shallow, in a very dry well, and they left him there as what? As a prisoner, hoping that a caravan will come take him. This was in the middle of the story, by the way. So in the evening they went to their father. Why at night? Because, as I said before, they're not very good at telling lies. So they thought their father will see on their face immediately they're lying. So they went late at night after Isha, so that the darkness will cover their faces and their false tears that they really cannot muster will not come out, and their father will not know. So the scholars commented, Yaqub alayhi salam mentioned to them, what a merciful wolf this is. He gently removed the shirt from my beloved son, ate my son, put blood on it, gave it back to you. There's not a single tear on the shirt. بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. Indeed, something in your hearts has deceived you. And for me, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. For me is a beautiful patience. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one from whom help is sought for what you claim. The gist of the surah, brothers and sisters, is this: فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. What do we call this sabrun jameel? In English, it's very difficult to translate that, because the word jameel in English we translate as beautiful or comely. It's a really old term, comely, C-O-M-E-L-Y, which means what? Appealing, visually appealing. But that's not the case here. Sabrun jameel is talking about a patience that continues, that endures, that is long lasting. Again, I'll tell you, Yaqub alayhi salam's patience is very long lasting. Towards the end of today's lecture, we'll do an exercise amongst each other. We will count the number of years Yaqub alayhi salam stayed away from Yusuf alayhi salam. It's not a short number, by the way. That's why he says, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. How do you understand this? You hear from somebody, one of your friends, that so and so did ghiba against you. They say, khalas, inshallah. May Allah guide him, guide us. 2 days later, your friend comes and says the same thing. You know, so and so, he again did ghiba against you. He again backbit you behind your back. I said, okay, no problem. You don't need to tell me again and again. May Allah guide him, guide us. 5 days later, your friend came a third time. He says, so and so backbit you again. He did that after all I've done for him? What an evil human being. You know what he said to me before about you? You know what he did behind my back? You know whom he stole from? Now all your anger came to the surface and it came out, because you don't have sabrun jameel. Yaqub alayhi salam is excellent in this manner. He has excellent patience. Why is that? Just think about this. After they did this, he lived with them decades. Every single day he faces these young men, his own sons. He knows what they did. He never cut off himself from them. He never stopped being their Nabi, because even before their father, more importantly, he's their Nabi. He never stopped guiding them or giving them nasiha, even though he knows for decades upon decades what they're guilty of. That, brothers and sisters, is something only a Nabi can do. To remain patient with your own children, knowing one of your children kicked one of your sons out. Even though they claim he's killed by both, this is Yaqub alayhi salam, Nabiullah. He knows he's not dead. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told him, Yusuf will inherit from you, and a dead person cannot inherit prophethood. Also in this ayah, we learned something, brothers and sisters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Whenever calamity strikes you, deal with 2 things. First and foremost, be patient. Be patient. Then as-salah. As-salah linguistically means dua. The second thing you do when you hear about a calamity, a bad news, something that you were not expecting, something that hurts you a lot, something that causes you distress and negativity, Be patient first and foremost. Don't react. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't point fingers. First stop, be patient, then make dua. That's the reason why the Prophet ﷺ said, when you hear an evil news or a bad news come to you, say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Allah maftahli. Allah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I wish one of you would remind me in the meantime. Clearly, not many of you have heard this dua. The dua that says, Allah ma'jurni fi musibati wa akhluf li khayran minha. Alhamdulillah, Allah SWT reminded me. Oh Allah, let me be patient in this calamity and replace for me with something better what I have lost. It's a beautiful dua of the Prophet ﷺ. From here onwards, we will not talk about ayat. In the rest of this in the rest 10-20 minutes, I will describe to you ayat in paraphrasing. I'm not going to give the entire surah ayat by ayat from here onwards, because our focus for tonight is whom? Yaqub alayhi salam. So next 50 ayat or so, I'm going to paraphrase for you, inshallah, and I'm going to give you the gist of the story so you can follow along when we start with the story of Yaqub alayhi salam again. From here onwards, what happens is this. Many of you need know the stories, but if you do not know this, inshallah, follow along. A caravan comes and they lower a bucket to get water. In the bucket, they found a young boy, Yusuf alayhi salam. They take him, they hide him. He's a beautiful young boy. All his teeth are perfectly fine. His skin is excellent. He's in good, at least decent clothing. He must be from a very good family. He cannot be an old boy lost in the desert. Very recently, he's been left in the well. So he will sell for a good amount of money. They take him all the way from Canaan, where he lived, Palestine, to Egypt, and they sold him there. Who buys him? None other than the finance minister of the king over there. Very briefly speaking, historically speaking, from the 1600s to 1300 BC, as you know, the years go backward to talking BC. Yani in the past, 1600 to 1300 years, a period of about 250 years, Egypt was ruled by the Hyksos, not by the pharaonic dynasty that historically ruled Egypt for 2600 years. In a span of 250 years in the middle, they were ruled by the Hyksos. The Hyksos were people who lived northeast from Egypt and came down, basically toppled the pharaonic dynasty and instituted their own dynasty over that ruled for 250 years. Very likely, the story of Yusuf alayhi salam occurred during that time. Why? Because in the Quran, any other time, the ruler of Egypt is called Fir'aun. In this one, he is called Malik, the king. Which means very likely Yusuf alayhi salam and his father were living in the time when the Hyksos were ruling Egypt. And so when Yusuf alayhi salam goes over there, the ruler of Egypt, the Malik, he has a finance minister. For the purpose of this surah, Allah called him Al-Aziz. Al-Aziz is the one who buys Yusuf alayhi salam at a good price, by the way. A fantastic deal, as the Quran says. Darahim ma'duda, handful of coins they sold him for. He buys Yusuf alayhi salam and he takes him to his home. And he tells his wife, who happens to be, let's be honest, a very young woman who is also very beautiful. And he tells her, let's take care of him, this young boy. He will either serve us or we can even adopt him as a son. Because again, Yusuf alayhi salam is very good looking, even as a boy. So how young is he, by the way? Anyone knows? When they lower the bucket in the well and they take it out, the one who's lowering he says, Ya Bushra, Hada Ghulam. He gives the word Ghulam. In Islamic studies, in the science of genealogy, a Ghulam is a boy who's between the age of 4 to 9. The scholars said Yusuf alayhi salam was either 6 or 7 years of age when that incident happened, i.e. he was abandoned in the well. So the 7-year-old boy comes out from the well. They take him, the cell over there. Al-Aziz takes him home and tells his wife, either he'll be a good slave to us, inshallah, or he'll be at least a son to us, we can adopt him. As a rule, brothers and sisters, think about this. The best slaves, historically speaking, are young boys. The best slaves. Do you know why? Because it's easy to mold their mentality and make them subservient to you for the rest of their lives. And they're superior to young women because they are strong as they grow up. So the best slaves, historically speaking, have been young boys. That's one of the reasons, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, why in Jannah, you and I will be served by whom? Young boys. So they found a young boy, they took him home. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took care of Yusuf alayhi salam. He ended up in the palace of a minister where he's well taken care of, well fed. And this minister, despite all of his shortcomings, was an excellent teacher and careful towards the upbringing of Yusuf alayhi salam. So he taught him good manners, even though Yusuf alayhi salam has plenty of excellent manners. And he also taught him the trade craft, finances, how to take care of finances on a very large scale. He is the finance minister, and he's in charge of the entire economy of Egypt, not one town. And Yusuf alayhi salam learned all this in his young life. As Yusuf alayhi salam famously grows up, he becomes exceedingly handsome. The Prophet alayhi salam famously said in hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed Yusuf alayhi salam with half of beauty. This statement has never been quantified beyond this. So scholars comment about this. Half of what? Some said half of all natural beauty on earth. Yani everything, the stars, the river, the valleys, the sunshine or the sunset, all these things that we find beautiful, put all of them side, equal to that is the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salam. Others said no, all of humanity's beauty is one side, Yusuf alayhi salam's beauty on the other side. The third opinion is no, he was half of the beauty of his father Adam alayhi salam, our father. And to me that makes the most sense, and I'll tell you why. Because we know from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Allah SWT created 4 things with his own hand. One of them is our father, Adam alayhi salam. Allah SWT knows best, but the opinion that I find the strongest when we say half of all beauty, he was giving half of the beauty of Adam alayhi salam. For sure, no one can compare in beauty and physical appearance as our father Adam, because Allah SWT made him with his own hands. Anyway, as he's growing up, he comes into his own as a young man. Once Shaykh, when he talked about the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salam in one of his lectures, this was lecture they gave more than 20 years ago. I have a CD of that. So he described very nicely. Shaykh Wali said, what do you mean by this handsome young man who's so beautiful? Which means what? He's the correct height. Not too tall, but not on the shorter side of things. Very likely on the taller side of things. Because women and men find one meant to be what? Tall, dark and handsome. Except Yusuf alayhi salam is on the taller side of things. If someone becomes too tall, they're not handsome very much, are they? So he's on the taller side of things, but not exceedingly tall. He has perfect teeth. His skin is unblemished. His hair must be exceedingly black and his skin must be very light colored, because human idea is what? Contrast really brings about beauty in the face. He must have large eyes, because mankind desires large eyes in beautiful people. There's something that is a very striking feature. He must be a man who has longer hair, but not too long, that they look feminine. So he must have long hair, because long hair, even on men, longer hair, not too long hair, is something people desire. It's something that people like to look at. He must have excellent physique. He's not chubby for sure, but he's not skinny either. Very likely he has very good proportions in his arms and chest. Broad chested, but not bulging like T-Rex, what do you call that? T-Rex, like He-Man or something like that. No, because that physique is not commonly found, and therefore it's not appealing. His appearance is appealing to all mankind, not just the people of Canaan, but also the people of Egypt, because he is a foreigner, for all intents and purposes, a different race living in Egypt. And yet his features are so mesmerizing that the wife Al-Aziz cannot keep her hands to herself. Years are passing. As he's growing up, she's becoming more and more infatuated with him. There is a young man who is her husband's slave, not her slave, her husband's slave living inside. Every single day she sees him. He is so sincere. Anything, go pick up that glass from there, he'll go pick it up. Can you make sure the curtains are all cleaned? By afternoon, everything's clean. Can you make sure that the food is taken away and dishes are put away? Everything's done. Never objects, never interrupts, never talks back. Obedient and yet extremely headstrong. You always are mesmerized by him. Yani she is, for all intents and purposes, his mistress. And yet she must feel what? A sense of awe towards him. He is the epitome of masculinity as well. He's soft-spoken, but he's extremely respectful. All of these things are eating away at her insides, are playing with her emotions. What happens? وراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه وغلقت الأبواب وقالت هيت لك قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. Shaykh Ali said something interesting. He said these ayats وقالت حيت لك in some قراءات is called وقالت هيت لك, from even deeper in the side. She said what? Come to me. She adorned herself, locked all the doors. غلقت الأبواب. By the way, أغلقت الأبواب is what? Closing the door. غلقت الأبواب is what? Shutting doors upon doors upon doors. She wants to make sure nobody interrupts because she has a very evil intent towards her slave. And he says what? معاذ الله إنه ربي. I seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gave the short version of أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم because he was so taken aback. His mistress, someone whom he may have looked upon as his mother, invites him to do what? That evil deed with her. Anyway, the story continues. She tries to seduce him. He repels and he rebukes her advances. They both race towards the door. She grabs him from the back, tears his shirt. And he opens the door, and guess what? Her husband is right there. The one person who also has all the keys to the house. The finance minister is a man who is a man of great reputation. He cannot afford to people to talk about how his wife was trying to seduce the slave boy. So he's trying to bury this immediately. A member of her family was observing this. He said, if you want to seek the truth, she's saying that Yusuf attacked and tried to rape me. No, that cannot be true. Look at the shirt. If the shirt is attacked, if the torn from the front, that means he was attacking her, she was defending herself. But if the shirt is torn from the back, Al-Aziz, if the shirt is torn from the back, that means she was chasing him. When they saw the shirt torn from the back, Al-Aziz said, Yusuf, you are clear from any accusation, and you, O wife, seek forgiveness from him. That's all he says. Does not punish her, does not give her threat of divorce, seek forgiveness from Yusuf. What happens? This story spreads. The servants from whom she was trying to defend her reputation and conceal everything, they opened the doors. And this news spread like wildfire throughout the town. There are women in households like her, wives also of other ministers, they start talking. وَقَالَ نِسْوَةٌ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ. And they start talking what? The wife of Al-Aziz is besotted with her slave boy. We find her to be a ridiculous woman. Can you believe it? Lusting after your own slave? He's nothing. She is the wife of Aziz. How can she do this? But what's the true fact here? They want to see how handsome this man is. So she learns about their plot. She said, okay, all of you come over, I'm going to give you lunch. And then I'm going to give you dessert. By the way, what does she serve dessert? Fruits is a good option. At that time, it's still a good option today. Instead of serving people cake, if you want to invite people at home, give them fruit, inshallah. It's healthier. As the wife Al-Aziz did, she served them fruit. She gave all of them, each of them bowl, and she gave them fruits, and she gave each of them knives. Famous story what? She says, "Ukhruj alayhin." Come in front of them. When Yusuf comes, mesmerized. The room fell silent. And their eyes come out. Yes, indeed, we see what she sees in him. They all cut their hands. And now, not just the wife Al-Aziz, all of these women, they want that from Yusuf alayhi salam. So, he says to his master, you know, you told me once, if I have the option, I can go to prison, let me go to prison. I don't want to be here. They invite me to something so evil. So he goes to prison. He goes to prison and spends a number of years over there. Two young men enter in the meantime while he's there. One of them happens to be the king's wine presser. Yani someone who presses grapes and other juicy fruits, takes the juice from out, ferments and makes it into wine. The second happens to be the bread maker for the king. They go to Yusuf. They say, Yusuf, we find you to be an extremely righteous man. Can you give us interpretation of our dreams? The wine presser says, I see myself pressing wine again for the king. The bread server says, I see birds eating from my head. So Yusuf alayhi salam tells them, before we do that, understand this, you and I are commanded to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. and we're not allowed to make up religion. And he gives them a fantastically detailed da'wah. You know why he did that? Because he had their full attention. Brothers and sisters, excellent lesson here. If a non-Muslim gives you their full attention and you think there's an opportunity, strike the hammer. Invite them to Islam and do not be shy about that. Like Yusuf alayhi salam. Because he has their full attention at this time. They want interpretation of their dreams. He starts with what? Giving them a very detailed da'wah and tugging at their heartstrings, attacking their intellect. Why do you worship arbab or rubub, or rather shall I say, why do you worship lords who cannot even do anything for you? Rather worship one Lord. Then he says, as for one of you, the one who's a wine presser, he will go back to his service. The other guy, who's a bread maker, he will be crucified. Now, just as a side comment, by the way, do you know why they went to Yusuf alayhi salam for interpretation of dreams? It's not that the moment he entered then to say, we both saw a dream, let's go to this guy. They must have been observing his honest nature, his true nature, his kindness, his generosity. They must have been observing his truthfulness, his honesty for a number of years. And they must have seen him being able to interpret dreams somehow. That's the reason they went to him. Alayhi salam. The story further continues. When the one who's crucified is crucified and the winemaker is given the opportunity to do so, he does what? Yusuf alayhi salam tells him, when you get an opportunity, please make sure that you mention my case to the king, that I've been wrongfully accused here. He said, okay, I'll do that. One more minute, inshallah. I'll do that for you. He goes over there, he forgets. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. Because of the forgetfulness of this man, Yusuf alayhi salam stayed in prison for a number of years. What is bid'a sinin? It's mentioned also Surah Rum, by the way. Bid'a sinin is a span of years between 3 and 9. So Yusuf alayhi salam remained another 6-7 years after interpreting their dreams in the prison. All these years, keep counting, brothers and sisters. They will add up very quickly. Finally, the king has a dream. The king says, I dreamt that 7 fat cows were eaten by 7 healthy ones, and 7 ears of wheat and 7 dry ones. Can you, oh my courtesans, or sorry, my courtiers, not courtesans, courtiers, give me interpretation of my dream? They said, we don't understand this. But this wine presser hears, he said, I can tell you the interpretation of a dream. He goes back to Yusuf, calls him what? Yusuf, ayyuha siddiq. The way he describes Yusuf alayhi salam is so magnificent. Yusuf, O truthful one, tell us the interpretation of this dream. What does Yusuf alayhi salam says? Did you tell what I asked you to do, the king? You think it's good for you to come to me asking me for a favor? After 7 years ago, I told you to tell the man, you forgot? No. Immediately, Yusuf alayhi salam gives an interpretation of dream. He's not like you and I, Yaqub. He is a patient man. And he's content with Allah's decree. This man goes back, tells the interpretation of Yusuf alayhi salam to the king. The king says, release this man. He is an intelligent person. Give me his case history. They give the case history. Wife of Al-Aziz. Al-Aziz has long died. Years and years have passed. The wife of Al-Aziz is an old woman now. She's invited, rather she's commanded, summoned to the court. Come and explain your situation. Why is Yusuf in prison because of you? So she admits, I made a mistake. He was blameless. And it is my fault that he ended up over there. Yusuf, the king does what? Appoints Yusuf alayhi salam the same position that his former master used to occupy. We'll pick this up from there. Jazakallah khair, please. What was the king's dream that Yusuf alayhi salam interpreted? The king's dream was that, he said, based on what you've told me, there'll be 7 years of plenty in which Egypt and the surrounding areas will go through a fantastic bumper crop in which you'll enjoy a lot of harvest. Animals, insects, and of course plants, a lot of them will grow, and you'll harvest and you'll have a lot of surplus of food and material and resources. Those 7 years will be followed by 7 years of drought, in which nothing will grow, animals will die, the land will become parched. And after those 7 years, there will be a year in which you'll have a lot of things. It's called a bumper crop, even more than the past 7 years of plenty. So, appoint me, what? Make me a, قال اجعلني على خزائن الأرض إني حفيظ عليم. He said, make me in charge of the treasuries of Egypt. Indeed, I am a trustworthy and knowledgeable caretaker. Why? Because he studied this under Al-Aziz when he used to live in Al-Aziz's house. I know all about this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed him what? From the position of a slave who was then imprisoned, a prisoner, or for all intents and purposes, convict for them. Rather, he's not convict, he's just a prisoner because there's no conviction against him. He's taken out and made the minister. And he diligently serves the king and the entire people of Egypt. 7 years, alayhi salatu salam, he collects all surplus. He puts them into well-constructed granaries. He takes all the animals, their skins, their hide, dries up the meat, puts away in good, secure places where insect and rotting cannot get to it. He finds water and puts them into aquifers so that they can be utilized later on, so that people can supply their crops and their fields with water in dry times. All of this effort for 7 years, and then 7 years of drought start to happen. This is where the story of Yaqub Islam again resumes. The brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they go from Canaan. 7 years of plenty and then 4 or 5 years of a lot of drought and hardship until they have no choice. People from all around the surrounding areas, they hear, except Egypt, everywhere else there's death and misery. Only one place has still provisions for you. If you want to have something to eat, if you want to wear clothing, if you want to survive, you need to travel to Egypt. Take from you whatever you find in your house and sell it over there so you can get rations for your family. This is a plan that was in place for all the surrounding areas of Egypt. For sure, Egyptians are inside over there in Egypt. So these people go from Canaan, they travel over there. Allah knows 1 or 2 months of journey. They arrive over there, completely tattered, hungry and thirsty. وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُفَ دَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. They went and they entered upon Yusuf alayhi salam. He recognized them immediately. Why would he not? They wear the same clothes that they were wearing in Canaan. He is dressed in royal attire. Very likely he has a crown. He has 1 or 2 robes on him, alayhi salatu salam. Very likely he's sitting on not very likely, we know for a fact he was sitting on an arsh. Again, he's not a proud man, he's following the customs of his king. The king has put him in that place of honor and authority. And he needs to maintain that honor and authority for the purpose of making sure people follow and abide by him and obey him. So he's dressed exactly like a minister at that time in the course, in the king's court will be dressed like. So obviously that did not register in their minds, this is our brother. Which is ironic if you think about this. He must have looked like them. But again, very likely he was covered. That's what scholars said. Very likely he had a taj on his head, a crown on his head. His hair must have been covered and some other things. Maybe he was wearing some kind of makeup or something which is distinguishing from them. That's the reason they cannot recognize him. And he immediately recognized them. وَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجَهَازِهِمْ قَالَ ائْتُونِي بِأَخٍ لَكُم مِّنْ أَبِيكُمْ أَلَا تَرَوْنَ إِنِّي أُوفِي الْكَيْلَ وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنزِلِينَ. He said, I'll give you provisions. If you want more from me, bring me from your father a half-brother, yani your paternal half-brother. If you have any living with you back home, bring him to me. I will give you more provision for him. Why did he say paternal half-brother? Because the maternal half-brother will be provided for the other father. But paternal half-brother has to be provided from the same family of brothers and from the same father, in this case being Yaqub alayhi salam. So he says, bring me that paternal half-brother if you have any at home. And I will give you his measure as well. فَإِن لَمْ تَأْتُونِ بِهِ فَلَا كَيْلَ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي وَلَا تَقْرَبُونَ. If you do not do that, you will have no more presence with me. Yani you will not be allowed in my court anymore, and I will never let you come sit close to me. قَالُوا سَنُرَاوِدُ عَنْهُ أَبَاهُ وَإِنَّا لَفَاعِلُونَ. They said, don't worry, we have such a brother at home. He is always with our father. We'll bring him to you. Anyone wants to take a guess how old Binyamin is right now? Let's see if you've been following along the years. Take a guess. Binyamin was 2 or 3 years of age when Yusuf alayhi salam disappeared. Late 20s, early 30s, very likely. By this time, you can imagine decades have passed, ya ikhwanna, decades. That's one of the reasons why they could not recognize Yusuf alayhi salam, because when they saw him, he was this tall or this high. Now he's sitting on the arsh. Alayhi salatu salam. فلما رجعوا إلى أبيهم قالوا يا أبانا منع منا الكيل فأرسل معنا أخانا نقتل وإنا له لحافظون. They said, oh our father, please, 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 just let go of your clutches and let us take Binyamin. We will be able to bring his measure of rations with us, because the system at that time was this: one man will bring rations for one family. If you come and say my brother is sick, I'm sorry, when he's well, send him back, we'll give his rations to you, but we're not giving you before that. No one can claim and take, I have 5 brothers, give me 5 rations for them. No, all of your 5 brothers have to be with you, and we'll give enough for the husband, the wife and the children. But you cannot come and say, I have 5 brothers, give me 5 families worth of ration. No. So they said, Father, we need Binyamin to come with us. We have a situation that you understand. Every single cent count, every single grain of rice count, every single sack of wheat counts. We need to take more home so that we can feed our family. He says, قال هل آمنكم عليه إلا كما أمنتكم على أخيه من قبل. 30 years have passed, and the first thing he tells them, you want me to send Binyamin the way I sent with you, his brother? Yani, Yaqub alayhi salam's love and desire to meet Yusuf alayhi salam is so strong. The first time they asked to take Binyamin, what he says? I cannot. I have very bad experience with you guys. You took his brother and you never returned him. But he says, فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. He is desperate now in this, like pretty much in that situation. He says, وَلَمَّا فَتَحُوا مَتَاعَهُمْ وَجَدُوا بِضَاعَتَهُمْ رُدَّتْ إِلَيْهِمْ قَالُوا يَا أَبَانَا مَا نَبْغِي هَذِهِ بِضَاعَتُنَا رُدَّتْ إِلَيْنَا. They opened their bags, the provision that they received from Yusuf alayhi salam. They opened their bags, they saw all their currency, their mats, their chairs, the horse's mane, whatever they have brought to sell over there, everything's put back. And they have all the provision. The way it was working, you bring something from your home, and in Egypt they'll give you grain, rice or provisions equal to that amount. Then you sell them something and you get something from that. In this case, they gave everything back to Yusuf alayhi salam's brothers. Why did Yusuf alayhi salam do that? Anyone takes a guess? Tell me, why would he put all the things they want to sell to him back in his sacks? Tell me, Brother Kaleem. To bring them back. What could be a better incentive to people? All of this is free. Maybe they made a mistake, or maybe they were too generous with us, and maybe they'll make the same mistake again and they'll be generous with us. So they want to go back again. This is a plot, or rather ploy from Yusuf alayhi salam to do what? Bring the brothers back. Because he knows what they need, and he is unlike them. He is merciful to them, and he loves them, and he knows they are his blood relatives, and he knows he needs to take care of them, even if they threw him in the well. Alayhi salatu salam. وَنَمِيرُ أَهْلَنَا وَنَحْفَظُ أَخَانَا وَنَزْدَادُ كَيْلَ بَعِيرٍ ذَلِكَ كَيْلٌ يَسِيرٌ. They said, and we will obtain supplies for our family and protect our brother and obtain an increase of a camel's load. That is an easy measurement. They said, Father, let Binyamin come with us. We'll bring you much more provisions with us. So Yaqub alayhi salam says, قَالَ لَنْ أُرْسِلَهُ مَعَكُمْ حَتَّى تُؤْتُونِي مَوْثِقًا مِّنَ اللَّهِ. Such a severe demand he makes. He says, listen, I will let you go with him. Here's my one condition. You have to swear in the name of Allah that you will bring him back unless you're surrounded by enemies and who do not allow you to pass or do not allow him to pass. They said, indeed, we'll do this for Father. فَلَمَّا أَتَوْهُ مَوْثِقَهُمْ قَالَ اللَّهُ عَلَى مَا نَقُولُ وَكِيلٌ. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a witness towards what you have just claimed. And he sealed the deal with them from an aqeedi point of view. You have testified and you swear in the name of Allah, you'll bring Binyamin back to me. They said, we'll do that, O Father. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has noticed or has heard your promise. Yani, you are bound now. وقال يا بني لا تدخل من أبواب واحد وادخلوا من أبواب متفرقة. As they're leaving, he gives them advice. Now becomes the reason of why I said they are all very handsome men. Yaqub alayhi salam advises his sons, when you go to Egypt this time, the second time, please, please, all 10 of you, do not enter Egypt from the same gate. Or at least do not enter the town of the king from the same gate, the capital city. Go from different gates. Why did he say that? The scholars commented, because they are very handsome, these young men. Even if they're dressed in tatters, dirty and old clothing, they're still handsome men. It'll be noticed by everybody that a group of 10 handsome men have entered. There's a possibility that some plot or some jealousy might arise in people's hearts and they may attack you or do something against you. So Yaqub alayhi salam does what? Gives them good nasiha. وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ وَعَلَيْهِ فَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. And he said, O my sons, do not enter from one gate, but enter from different gates. And I cannot avail you against the decree of Allah at all. Yani, I cannot help you in any which way. Whatever Allah has decreed for you will happen. But follow my advice. The decision is only for Allah. Upon Him I have relied, and upon Him that those who would rely indeed will rely. ولما دخلوا من حيث أمرهم أبوهم ما كان يغني عنهم من الله من شيء إلا حاجة في نفس يعقوب قضاها وإنه لذو علم لما علمناه ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends this ayah, and I'm going to describe first the translation. And when they entered from where their father had ordered, yani from different gates, it did not avail them against Allah at all. Everyone noticed that these young men have entered, even if they entered from different gates. And it became well known that a big group of people have entered. So now they have no choice. They have to go back to the security of the palace, in which they have this very reasonable Al-Aziz, or Minister of Finance, Minister sitting, who listens to the pleas of people. So they go over there. But the ending is very interesting. Allah SWT calls Yaqub alayhi salam what? وَإِنَّهُ لَذُو عِلْمٍ لِمَا عَلَّمْنَاهُ. Yaqub alayhi salam, for sure, is ذو ilm. Yani in Islamic science we call Bahrul Ilm, someone, a scholar. Yaqub alayhi salam is way, way beyond that. He is an entire universe full of knowledge. Knowledge that we have taught him. Yani this is from his nasiha, even though this nasiha did not benefit them. And they went over there. It's 10 o'clock, brothers and sisters. I promise you, inshallah, less than 10 minutes. And we'll end, inshallah, the surah. 10 more minutes, inshallah. Now, to fill in things, we're going to move away from the story of Yaqub alayhi salam again. To fill in things, Yusuf alayhi salam now wants to reveal his plan and wants to execute it. And the crescendo of that plan execution is for the family, the entire family, including Yaqub alayhi salam, to move. Because Yusuf alayhi salam knows there is no future for him and his family in Canaan anymore. They need to leave. So he does what? He knows one thing which will compel Yaqub alayhi salam to come out from Canaan all the way to Egypt. If Binyamin is captured. That's the one thing Yaqub alayhi salam cannot let go. One more son, especially the only son amongst all the 11 that he loves so much. So Yusuf alayhi salam goes to Binyamin, and Binyamin tells him, I am your brother, but I have a plan and I need you to help me with that. He puts the king's chalice. The king do not have cups like you and I do. They have a chalice. It's a golden cup, very beautifully adorned. They have stones, beautiful stones, what we call emeralds and all that around it. It's called a chalice. And they drink from that wine and drink and all that. The king in this case is no different. They took the chalice of the king, they put it inside Binyamin's bag. As the caravan is about to leave, they have given all the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam new provisions, enough provisions, plenty of provisions. As they're about to disembark, as they're about to leave, they're already on their camels. A cry cries out, "Oh, camel herders, you are all thieves." Look at their nature. Did not rush, did not run away, did not get scared. Unlike any other time, they didn't what? They turn around and they come back. What have you lost? They said, we have lost the king's cup. Whoever helps us find this, he will be rewarded with more provisions. But whoever is guilty, he will be punished. They said, we did not come here to engage in thievery. We came here to sell our provisions and get something from you. We are men of family. We don't have time for this, and we definitely have not plotted anything against you. So the assistants of Yusuf alayhi salam say what? What if we find the cup in one of your bags? What do you tell me is the punishment? Why did Yusuf alayhi say that? Because Yusuf alayhi salam knows the Sharia of his father Yaqub. He knows that, and his brothers follow the same Sharia. According to their Sharia, if a person steals from someone, something major, that person becomes a slave to that person. This is their Sharia. And Yusuf a.s. knew by the laws of his land, by the laws of the king whom he serves, this would not function. But he put the onus on them to decide. So they said, our land, in our land, this is what we do. If someone steals from you, something major, and they're caught, they become your slave. So he plots, as mentioned in the Quran, much detail. He starts looking at their bags, delaying looking at the bag of Binyamin, and he saves Binyamin's bag towards the end, so that it appears that it's actually something that happened in reality. It's not a ruse as such. They open Binyamin's bag, there's a chalice over there. All the brothers, their faces must have turned white, because they know one thing, which means what? Binyamin will have to stay here as a slave to the Al-Aziz, and they're gonna have to go back to Yaqub al-Islam, disappoint him 30 years down the line a second time. Father, we lost your second son. After they had promised their father, we will bring him back. We will bring him back. Father, please let him go. We'll bring him back. With him, we'll bring back more provisions. Not only provisions, they don't even bring back the son. So one of them, the eldest, said, listen, I cannot, I'm sorry. I do not have the capacity to face our father. I promised him, you all promised him. Go back to your father. Tell him I have put myself here under his decree or the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever Allah decrees with me, but I do not have the strength or the courage to face him anymore. Go back to your father, tell him Binyamin has stolen. We only tell you what we see. We only tell you what we have observed. If you do not believe us, ask the people of the town and the caravan who came with us. We have nothing to do with this. This is not a plot anymore. They go back over that. And what does before they go, they beg Yusuf alayhi salam. They said, قالوا يا أيها العزيز إن له أبا شيخا كبيرا إن له أبا شيخا كبيرا فخذ أحدنا مكانه إنا نراك من المحسنين. They say, please, Al-Aziz, please, take any of us, any one of us. Let this young man go. He has a very aged father, Shaykhan Kabir, a very old man who's waiting for him home. If we do not bring him, he will be completely heartbroken. And Al-Aziz happens to be Yusuf alayhi salam, says, come on, this you ask us to do injustice to you. He's the one stolen. We ask one of you to punish. That's not going to happen. He's going to have to stay here. To cut a long story short, they go back. And as much as Yaqub alayhi salam has been suffering at the loss of his son Yusuf, this is what really hurts him. They tell and say, oh, our father, Binyamin has been arrested. He's in the king's palace under house arrest. We have nothing to do in this matter. He said, you promised me you're going to bring him back. They said, Father, please trust us. This time trust us, we're not lying to you. And Yaqub alayhi salam says, it is my grievance of sorrow that I cannot believe that this happened. And his eyes turned white out of the sorrow that he was holding back. I asked actually Dr. Arslan Tajamul about this. You know, he comes in, he's giving lectures over here as well. He says something interesting. He said there is a condition, a rare condition that happens if a person is overtaken, especially an old person, is overtaken by extreme grief. Sometimes blindness can set in. The doctor in the crowd here, if I made a mistake, kindly correct me. He said blindness can set in because of extreme pressure, extreme anxiety, and sometimes that blindness will lead to whiteness of the eyes. Sometimes. So this very likely may have happened here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. 4 moments, inshallah, we end with this. Before we continue further, this is the exercise that I want to do, but we don't have time, so I'm going to do the exercise for all of us, inshallah. Yusuf alayhi salam was cast in the well when he was around 7 years of age. Then he was taken to Egypt where he grows up. The incident with the wife of Al-Aziz happens when he's in early 20s. 21, 22, 15 years have passed. Since the moment he was cast in the well to the moment the wife of the Aziz tries to seduce him. Then he goes to the prison, spends a few years over there until the incident of the two men happen. 5, 6 years perhaps, something like that. Then after that, Bid'a Sinin pass before he is taken out of the prison. Another 7 years or so pass. Then what happens? He goes and he's in charge of the granaries for 7 years. And then After 7 years of plenty, 4 or 5 years of drought happened. And finally, an year of going back with the camels, getting provisions, going back, getting provisions, going back. Do you know how long Yaqub is suffering? Coming back to the title of today's lecture, between 35 to 40 years. And all this time he knows one thing, as a fact from Allah, Yusuf is alive. He just does not know how he is. He just does not know where he is. He has no idea whether Yusuf is suffering or Yusuf is in a state of comfort. But he knows one thing, Yusuf is alive. Why does he know that? Because he knows Yusuf has to do what? Take over the mantle of prophethood from him. And he has to guide the people. So finally, Yusuf alayhi salam, they go back to him. Finally, the brothers go back to Yusuf alayhi salam. They say, we beg you, release our brother, take whatever you want from us. We have nothing more to give to you. Release our brother. He says, do you remember what you did to Yusuf when he was young? Now they see. Now they realize who's under the crown and who's under these robes. They say, are you indeed Yusuf? He says, I am Yusuf. And this Binyamin is my brother. They say, we made a mistake. We are guilty. We are sorry for what we did to you. Forgive us. He said, لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم وهو أرحم الراحمين. There is no blame on you today. May Allah forgive you. He is most forgiving, for merciful. Take my shirt and place it on the face of our father. He will indeed become someone who is no more blind. So they'll go back again, one more time, back all the way to Canaan with the shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam. Before they arrive, Yaqub alayhi salam says to his family who are remaining over there, very likely his daughters-in-law or his daughters or his grandchildren over there, I can smell Yusuf. They said, you old man, that's what they say. You old man, what are you talking about? Yusuf, our uncle, was lost 40 years ago. He said, I know something that you do not know from Allah Azza wa Jalla. The brothers come, they cast the shirt on the face of their father, he can see again. And he says, my dear sons, didn't I tell you what I know from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you do not know? They all go together to Egypt. The plan that Yusuf alayhi salam implemented comes to execution. But the way it ends, it's so beautiful. وَرَفَعَ أَبَوَيْهِ عَلَى عَرْشِهِ وَخَرُّوا لَهُ سُجَّدًا. He takes his parents, his father and one of his surviving stepmothers, he places them on his throne. And then father, the mother, and all the 11 brothers, they make sajda to him. This is not sajda that you and I understand. In their Sharia, it was allowed. It was a way of expressing respect and admiration. Then he says, oh my father, this is the interpretation of my dream, what I saw when I was young. And had it not been for Shaitan, who spread animosity between me and my brothers, this would never happen. This, brothers, is a culmination of everything that Yaqub alayhi salam had to suffer. And see how Yusuf alayhi salam ends this surah, the second to last page. فاطر السماوات والأرض أنت ولي في الدنيا والآخرة توفني مسلما والحقني بالصالحين. Even when he makes dua, he's so humble. He says, O creator of the heavens and the earth, you have been my protecting friend throughout my life. Allow me to die as a Muslim. Is there anyone who's better Muslim than Yusuf alayhi salam? Allow me to die as a Muslim and enter me in Jannah in the company of righteous people. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us like these people. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those people who follow the sunnah of the prophets and the sunnah of our Prophet alayhi salam. And I ask Allah to make us among those people who, when we undertake something good, we stick with that. And we stick with patience. And we stick with good things. And we stick with telling the truth. And may Allah grant us success in life, this world and the next. Jazakumullah khairan. I'm sorry to have to rush to the end and to end quickly. I wish we had more time, but I thank you all for being so patient with me. Indeed, you are following the example of Yaqub al-Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.